Okay, this is lesson 2, problem set in Algebra 2, and we're doing number 10 here. And the instructions tell us to simplify, and they want the answers with all of the exponential expressions in the numerator. So that means this is going to disappear. We're just going to have numbers in the numerator when we're done. So let's go through here and see what we can do. First thing I'm going to do is take care of what's in the parentheses here. So I'm going to leave my m squared, my p to the 0 power alone, and I'm going to take this negative 2 times 2 and get m to the negative 4, and then p has a 1 right there, so 1 times 2 is 2, so that'll be p squared. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the denominator. I'm going to leave the first m to the negative 2, p to the negative 1 alone. And I'm going to multiply this negative 3 times 3, that's the power rule. So I'll just leave that in red. So negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. And then this is, do it in blue here, p squared times the 3. So that's going to be p to the 6th power. Alright, so made it a little bit easier. In fact, if we can, let's see if we can, let's erase these parentheses here and make it look a little bit cleaner. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to combine what we can. And if you look here, we've got a squared and a negative 4. So I've got m to the 2 minus 4. And I've got a p with a 0 and a p squared. So I'm going to put p to the 0 plus 2. And on the bottom, I'm going to look at my m's. I've got a negative 2 and a negative 9. So I'm going to go m negative 2 minus 9. And when you're doing these, one of the things that you'll notice as time goes on is there are many different ways of doing these. And maybe later on when I teach you different ways of doing these, you'll think, I don't like the way you're doing it right now. I'm going to do one of the other ways. And that's perfectly fine. But right now, let's just kind of hold on to what we're doing here. I can combine my p's. That's negative 1 plus 6. So I end up with m to the negative 2, p to the squared, m to the negative 11, and p to the 5th power there. Okay? So the instructions say that we want all of my exponents in the numerator. So in order to do that, I just need to change the sign. I can move my numbers and letters with exponents to the numerator, to the denominator, back and forth wherever I want, as long as I continually change the sign of them as I move across the division sign. So if I've got an m to the minus 2 and I want to move it to the bottom, I just change it to a positive 2. If I have an m to the negative 11 and I want to move it up, I just change it to m to the positive 11. So we can move these back and forth anytime we want as long as we change the sign on the exponent, and we're good. So I'm going to leave my m to the minus 2 alone, my p squared alone, but I have to move the m to the negative 11 up, so I change the sign, and that's all fine, and I'm moving p to the 5th up, so I have to change its sign to its opposite. Now I can start combining. I can change m minus 2, I'm gonna add that 11 there for this one, so these two, and then I've got p squared, and then I've got a minus 5. So when I'm all done, I have m to the 9th, negative 2 plus 11, and p to the 2 minus 3 is negative 3, and now I have it simplified as much as I can go. So let's go ahead and do number 17 here. So we're going to follow the same thing we did with 10, is these we're going to do with the power rule. So those two are going to be multiplied. So b to the negative 6, and then I've got this negative 2 times the negative 3. So I have c to the positive 6, because a negative times a negative is a positive. I have c to the negative 3. Okay, on the bottom, I've got the 2 times 4, so I've got b to the 8th. I got 0 times 4, so that's going to be c to the 0. I have b to the negative 2 times 4 is b to the negative 8. Alright, so now I'm going to combine what I've got. And my b to the negative 6 stays the same, but my c's, I have a c to the 6 minus 3, and that gets rid of those, and that's going to be over b. I'm going to combine my 8's, or my b's, and get rid of those, and then I still have c to the 0. That gives me b to the negative 6, c to the 3rd, over b to the 0, c to the 0. And if you remember from Algebra 1, anytime we have a number or letter, doesn't matter what it is, to the 0 power, it automatically changes to a 1. So that and that change to 1, so 1 times 1 is 1, so we end up with b to the negative 6, c cubed over 1, or just b to the negative 6, c cubed. So this one's number 20 in section lesson number 2, and this time it's saying that they want the answer with all of the exponents negative. So it's just practicing. Very rarely are you ever going to want all the exponents negative, but they're just trying to get you used to writing things the different ways. Alright, so let's see here. We're going to leave the top alone for right now. There's really nothing we can combine at this point, but the bottom we can start with this here. So we're going to go s to the 0 times negative 3, which is 0, because 0 times anything is 0. T squared to the negative 3 power, we're going to multiply the 2 times negative 3 and get negative 6. M to the negative 3 st. Now we can combine. I can combine my s's, and I can combine my t's. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, we'll leave the top alone. And on the bottom, we have s to the 0 plus 1. So that gets rid of that and that. We have t to the negative 6 plus 1, because there's a 1 up there. And then we have m to the negative 3. So when we combine this bottom here, we get, we'll jump up here, s squared y m to the minus 3 all over s to the first. 0 plus 1 is 1. So I took these and added 0 plus 1 and just have an s there. I've got a negative 6 plus 1, which is going to give me a t to the negative 5, and then my m to the negative 3 stays the way it is. Okay, so if you remember from the example here, they asked you to make all of the exponents negative. So we're going to move them around to the different positions in order for that to happen. Okay, so we have, we're going to move our s squared down in order to make it negative. So we have s times s to the negative 2. Since we moved it to its opposite position, it changes sign. Our y, we're going to make a negative 1 because we moved it down. Our t is already down there, so we're going to leave it alone because it's already negative. And one of the things that's real interesting here, and I'll just put the m to the negative 3 up here and the m to the negative 3 here. Now, remember, any number over itself is 1. So I can get rid of that and rid of that and put a 1 up here, because m to the negative 3 over m to the negative 3 is going to be 1. So let's see, what do I have? I'm not quite done yet because I still have two s's. I have an s to the first and an s to the negative 2, and I'm going to combine those by going 1 minus 2. And then I have y to the negative 1, t to the negative 5. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So I'm just going to put that -1 there, and my answer is right there. So the rest of the lessons have things to do with other lessons, A, B, and lesson number 1. If you look at number 6, it has to do with lesson number 2, and it can be a little bit tricky, so let's throw that in there real quick. Okay, so in this problem it says the area of the square is 16 square centimeters. So in order for that to be 16, we had to take one side times the other side. So, and if it's a square, both those sides had to be the same. So it's 4 times 4. So we know each side is 4 centimeters. It says the circles inside the square are all the same size. Okay, so if they're all the same size, and we know that those are the center points of our circles, then we know that from here to here is 2, and from here to here is 2, which means, what do you know about the radius? The radius would be half of 2. So the radius is 1, and let's put the diameter being 1, or 2, just so that we have it written there. So the first question they're asking is, what is the radius of one of the circles? Well, we just figured that out. It's 1. Didn't really have to do any work. The next part is, what is the area of one of the circles? Well, we know that the area of a circle is pi r squared, and we know that our r is 1, so our area of one of the circles is 1 times pi, or just pi. And that's all there is to number 6. It seems too easy to be assigned, so that's why students have struggles with it. The rest of them I think you're okay with, and we'll just end there.